Aloha, everyone. Welcome back to Multifamily Live. I have the amazing Tim Lyons with me. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I met Timothy on Facebook and I saw his bio and I was like, I got to get him on here. And you're just about to hear why. So Tim is a 16-year veteran of the New York City Fire Department, FDNY. Yes, you heard it. For anybody in the back that did not hear that, FDNY, and currently serves as a lieutenant in the borough of Queens. He started Cityside Capital with the goal of not only growing his own portfolio, but also to help others realize the power that real estate investing can have on creating passive income and building wealth. Cityside Capital has 79 million of assets under management, including 561 multifamily units. In April 2021, Tim became an Amazon #1 best-selling author in a book he co-authored, and I cannot wait to hear about this book. Tim attributes his early success in real estate to investing into education, investing in coaches and mentors, and surrounding himself with like-minded people. Welcome, Tim.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great introduction. And I just wanted to stack a few more wins on top of that. We're actually now at 105 million and
Yes.
727 doors. It's just incredible, incredible stuff. So thank you so much for having us.
I am super, super excited that you gave us those numbers. I just felt this wave of just awesomeness come over me. Let's make some connections. So how did you get into real estate? You are a New York City Fire Department veteran and you serve as a lieutenant in the borough of Queens. What made you make that jump?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I love being a New York City firefighter. I've been obsessed with fire trucks since I've been little. My journey with being a fireman started when my mom got me a police scanner and I attached it to my bike and I just would follow the fire engines all over the town, and I just could never shake it. So then 9/11 happened and I was a sophomore in college and being from, I grew up just outside of New York City and I had family members who were firefighters, and my uncle was a captain who was buried under Tower 2. And luckily, he had a special radio with him that day that he was able to be taken out alive, and he's alive with us, to this day. So I think at that point, I even though I was in college and I wanted to do so many things, I was pre-med for about 15 minutes in college and, whatever else, but I couldn't shake I wanted to be a firefighter. That's what I wanted to do. So that's kind of how that happened. And, listen, I got married to my college sweetheart, ended up having a family, and a lot of firefighters work on the side because we work 24-hour shifts and then we have maybe 3 or 4 days off in between. So a lot of guys do like contracting, HVAC, roofing, in the trades. And, I know it's hard to believe being in real estate, but I grew up in a household that wasn't wasn't very handy. So I'm allergic to a hammer. And to this day, my wife still would rather pay somebody to hang something on the wall than to have me attempt it. I went ahead and I worked some odd jobs, but then I went back to nursing school because, throughout my real estate journey, I've heard this like scarcity mindset, abundance mindset. And, I grew up in a place of scarcity and I wanted that paycheck every 2 weeks. And so I went to nursing school instead of, going towards my dream of real estate. I decided to go back to school for 2 years and get a job as a nurse because a couple of guys that I worked with were nurses and they had the nice cars and their wives didn't work and they always had steady side work. So that's what I did for about 8 years and everything was great. My wife got to stay home with the kids. I have 3 little girls now, 10, 7, and 2. I'm blessed and grateful for them and to be their dad. And, when they were little, they didn't say anything about, dad going off to work. I would work 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. And, listen, it was tough and I'm a hard worker and I didn't mind doing it because, at the end of the day, I had to provide for my family and I actually liked what I did. I love working in the emergency room. I love being a firefighter. But then my girls got to be a little bit older and started to talk more. And, they would miss me. I'd come home from a 24. Maybe the next morning I'd be gone by the time they woke up. They'd call my cell phone. Daddy, where are you? Like you just got home last night. Now you're gone again. And it started to really wear on me. It started to wear on my wife. It started to wear on everything. So I knew there had to be a change. And, real estate was one of those things that I always wanted to get into someday. And I now know that there's a term for that. It's called the destination fallacy or the arrival fallacy. Someday I'll do this and someday I'll do that. And, if you don't take action behind, some of those thoughts, it'll be that fallacy. And excuse me. So here I am, 2 W-2 jobs, 3 girls, and a life to live. And I knew it was time for real estate. So I just started on the education binge. I started with Bigger Pockets, like everybody else. I started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, all these things that I had been meaning to read and meaning to listen to. I automatically did them, and I totally shut out kind of the radio and Pandora, Spotify music. I haven't listened to a top 40 song in about 2 years. So, that's kind of the genesis of how I got into it. And then I'd be more than happy to unpack some of that. But I'll throw it back to you first.
That is amazing. I was just going to sit here and just let this be the Tim Lyons show and just let you talk, because like you said, what a genesis. Just to give you a little bit about my background, I'm from Hawaii. A lot of you all know that. But I moved to New York on August 26th. Geez, it's still hard to say, 2001. So 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks before 9/11 happened. All my entire family in Hawaii wanted me to move back. And I told everyone, this right now, the way New York came together, that's the other reason why when I saw FDNY, I was like, yes, I have to have him on here, because New York came together and they just as a cohesive unit and just pushed forward. So all my gratitude for when your uncle listens to this, my gratitude to your uncle, my gratitude to you, my gratitude to your family and to your brothers and sisters that work every day for us. So that mushy and if you see me on YouTube right now, if you see me on YouTube right now, I might be crying. I'm not crying, you are. Back to your story.
Yes.
So just to give you the genesis of why I wanted you on here. So just that connection is amazing. And how that when that happened, you're just like, of course, this is my life's journey. But then that calling can turn into almost a pit. Like now your family wants to have more of your time. Your daughters have gotten older and you're working 2 jobs. You're looking for something else. And you are right at that point. You're getting educated. You're at that point where everybody tells you, get that education, take that step forward. But you said it yourself. It's action. Someday, so there's 7 days in the week. Someday isn't one of them. So what made you take that actual action? You have the education. You obviously have the drive. You don't know how to use a hammer, but that's great. What made you take that action, and what made you get into multifamily?
So I think it was, hearing so many other people's stories on podcasts and YouTube videos, people just like myself, W-2 people, family people, cops, firemen, teachers, nurses, doctors, who some of whom have extricated themselves out of a W-2 job because of real estate. And, it's funny. I think I heard either, I don't know who it was, but someone said you can't save your way to wealth, right? Whether that's through a 401k or your savings account, you can't save your way to wealth. What really, supercharges wealth is equity. And how do you find equity? Well, real estate comes to mind, or, owning your own business comes to mind, or getting in, early in an IPO, but how many opportunities do people have to really start a new business while working a W-2, or getting into an IPO if you don't know how to do that, right? But real estate was something I kept on hearing these stories of people, everyday folks, just like myself. They were doing fix and flips or BRRRRs or long-term buy and holds. They were doing multifamily syndications, mobile home parks. And, it was so fascinating to me that people just like myself were doing this and it was working. That's really why I took the action, because I just felt like everybody else is doing it and they're doing well at it. But I'm conservative and I didn't have a ton of capital to get started. And I really wanted to know how am I going to do this, and how am I going to make it work? So there's only a certain amount of time that you can educate yourself before you have to take action, or else, a thought without action behind it is just a thought. And then once you actually jump in and you build your parachute on the way down, because let's be honest, if you had to get a PhD and feel confident every time you want to do something in life, you would never do anything. It just wouldn't happen. So that's what I did. I started going to the meetups. This is all pre-COVID. This is November of 19. I closed. So the summer of 19, this journey started. By November of 19, I was closing on a 3-unit rental property that I had bought with a friend of mine. And between the two of us, we can't swing a hammer, but guess what? We painted and rehabbed the first floor unit. The top 2 units were occupied upon takeover. We put a new roof on, new siding, and we were cash flowing. We did better on our taxes that year. And, I had the proof of concept. My wife had the proof of concept. And, I had to make a decision. Am I going to maintain my side job as an ER nurse in a level 1 trauma center, working 12.5-hour shifts? Or am I going to dive into real estate? And I felt so strongly about the real estate that I resigned from my job, and I came out of my scarcity mindset, and I was moving into that abundance mindset and that growth mindset that I really haven't tapped into like in my whole life. And it was liberating, and I just knew I had to make it work, right? Because now my family was out that second income, and I had to make that happen. So, it's funny because this all kind of started too, as we're moving into 2020. And as we know, COVID was kind of out there, right? We saw Italy out there. We saw the different countries were kind of being affected by it. And I ended up joining a mentorship program March 1st of 2020. And 3 weeks later, my kids are home at homeschool, right? It was going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And as we all know, that 2 weeks turned into over a year. So, so it was a heck of a time to get started in real estate and mentorship and multifamily as a newbie. But again, I was so focused on that action and moving the ball forward and pushing that boulder up the hill, whatever kind of, metaphor you want to use. And to this day, if I had to do it all over again, I would absolutely follow the same path, because it's just been an incredible journey.
That is amazing. And the fact that you got into mentorship right at this, as this was all dropping, COVID was dropping. And I remember that it was going to take 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into a month turned into a year, and we're still feeling the side effects, of course.
Yes.
This is worldwide. So how did you get over that? Because I've heard a lot of different stories that, during COVID, I was able to explode, and during COVID, I wasn't. So what was it that was inside you, and plus your mentorship? How did those two things combine drive your success to where it is right now?
Yeah. Great question. And it really has to do, in a short answer, it's who I decided to surround myself with. That was the network of the mentorship program that I joined. It was the content that I was filling up my cup with, whether it was podcasts or audiobooks or, YouTube videos or whatever, webinars. Because, listen, during an event like a pandemic that I had never been a part of, right? A lot of us have never been a part of a pandemic. It was scary. The stock market lost 40% in value. Are we going to be trapped in our houses forever? And a lot of people, shrunk during that period. And I was determined to grow. And listen, like when I was listening to some macroeconomic professors and experts, like this happens, right? Like there's economic downturns, there's black swan events. Well, we'll get through it. This is the United States of America. We'll be fine. We're going to come out on the other side. So I decided to take that time to start building my business and getting educated and start making phone calls to brokers and building out my investor base. And really the catalyst behind that was, as a New York City firefighter, I work in a very poor neighborhood that has a high immigrant population. And they got crushed by COVID, and it spread like wildfire. When it finally got here, it spread like wildfire. And at the time I had an infant in the house, and, there was a lot of unknowns. How is it spread? What are the side effects? And, I was doing CPR on, well, my company, my firehouse, we were doing CPR on people nonstop for 24 hours at a time, and nobody was making it. And it was dreadful. I mean, it was soul sucking, and, I'm telling my wife this, and she's like, should you even be in this house? Like, should we put you down in the basement or, so whatever. So I ended up moving into my mother-in-law's house for 7 or 8 weeks. And my mother-in-law moved into my house. And I took that time, and I was up at 5 a.m. and I went to bed at midnight. And the whole day I just took action. I was educating myself. I was reading books. I was making phone calls, and people were getting surprised, at my voice. Like, I'd call a broker, be like, hey, I'm looking for a X, Y, and Z property. And, this cap rate. And the guy's like, oh, okay. I haven't got one of these calls. It's COVID outside, or calling community bankers and just trying to establish relationships. And they're trying to figure out PPP loans. And I'm asking them about, multifamily loans. But anyway,
so I want to actually stop you there. I don't want to, but anyway, what you just did, because folks, all my listeners out there, take this moment, press that back button, like at least like 3 times, and listen to what Tim just said. That's action taking. That's what you were supposed to do during COVID, and that's what you should be doing now. If you're trying to expand your business, you have to pick up that phone. Business is on the other side of that phone. Pick up that phone and call those brokers, call those bankers right now, after this podcast. But that is exactly what Tim did. And that right there, that golden nugget, I mean, I'm sure you're going to give me a few more, but that is what probably took you to the next level, because you weren't afraid to make those phone calls in the midst of a pandemic. But I digress. Go on.
Yeah. So I remember telling my mentor on a phone call we had, I started calling brokers and they started sending me deals. I'm like, this thing actually works. And he's like, yeah, no kidding. Like, this is how it works. This is what you got to do, So, we actually ended up, so now we're summer of 2020, and I had the opportunity of a lifetime to join my coach on one of his syndications. And he gave me a behind the scenes look, on how the whole thing works. And when I joined that mentorship program, I was really looking to buy like a 10 unit or a 20 unit with my brothers and my dad or some friends. Syndication wasn't something that I was focused on, but having that behind the scenes look and the education that it brought, and then the opportunity to raise some money for it. I mean, I didn't think I could raise any money at all. I didn't even know the first thing about capital raising. But being from the New York City area, I figured, there's somebody in my ecosystem that might be interested in this. And, we were able to raise, money for that deal. And then, the first deal kicked in, and before I knew it, I had a second deal right away, and then a third deal. And now we're just about to wrap up our 6th syndication in 1 year. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And when Greg and I talk, Greg's my brother and my business partner, we're saying to ourselves, like, if we can do this through a pandemic, if we can raise millions of dollars from friends and family and other investors through a black swan pandemic event, and it's worked, what can we do? What are the possibilities after this thing bypasses us? And, we're only serving to help out our investors, and to move forward. I mean, it's just incredible stuff.
That is amazing. Just asking yourself the question, what can we do? Because you were able to raise capital. You were able to take down these buildings. You're taking down your 6th building, and you've done this all basically during this entire pandemic. 6 properties during the pandemic. That's goals. That's pushing forward. That's getting it done. So I would clap for you, but that would ruin the sound for this podcast. So what's the next step for you? I mean, tell me a little, actually, you know what, before we go into that question, tell me a little bit about your book, and then tell me about what the future holds.
So again, during the pandemic, I was quarantined away from my family for like 7 or 8 weeks. And, I got lonely, right? So I'm like, how do I get into another mastermind or something like that? And I got an email from a gentleman named Kyle Wilson. And Kyle Wilson was, for the Jim Rohn fans out there, he was Jim Rohn's business partner and manager for 18 years. And he's worked with people like Les Brown, Dennis Waitley, I'm even forgetting some of the people now, but
He's worked with a lot of people. Hi,
a
Kyle. You're
lot of
awesome.
people. Kyle is the man. So he had like he has a great mastermind that was kind of expensive for what I would do, but he had this special, this COVID special. And I just clicked on the link, and I don't usually buy anything or click on any links. And I just did it. And I said, you know what the heck? And it ended up being like the best thing that I've done. I mean, there's so many, and I repeat, so many high level people in that mastermind. Um, it just opened up so many doors, and I've had such high level conversations. And Kyle has these book projects that he does periodically, where because he's invested in people's stories, and he thinks stories are so powerful, and they are.
Mhm.
And when you can get your story out there in a book, I mean, what better way? So again, he's like, if anybody's interested, I'm writing another book, and I didn't see myself as an author. I'm like, I haven't written a paper since college. Like, how am I going to write a chapter in a book? But I did it. I was committed. I said, you know what, I have a pretty good story to tell, and I'm surrounded by these awesome high level people, and yeah, well, let's do it. So I did it, and I wrote this chapter, and they have such a program to help you, tease out your story and get down to the core of it, and how to tell a story and edit and the whole thing. And it was an amazing experience. And I was a part of a book with about 20 or 30 different authors, including the likes of Robert Helms from the Real Estate Radio guys, and Bob Berg, from the author of The Go Giver, and so many others. And it was just a great experience. So if anybody wants to download a free copy, you can go to my website, just drop in your email address, and you get a free PDF copy of that book.
So before I ask you for that website, what does the future hold for you?
Good question. People keep on asking me, when am I going to leave the firehouse and just do real estate full time? And I'm not ready. I've done it for 16 years, and of course I can get a pension and all that stuff after 20 years. So I mean, I love that job, and I love being in the fire truck. I love the firehouse. I love the guys and the girls that I work with. I mean, it's just a great job. And plus, I'm out of the house 2 nights a week, and I don't know if my wife can handle me for 7 nights just quite yet. So big shout out to my wife, Christina. She's awesome. But anyway, so I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying Cityside Capital, and we've grown exponentially, and I'm just so grateful for where we are. But, to be honest, the future holds a lot of great things. We have aligned ourselves with some great sponsors, some top-notch sponsors in the country. We have gotten ourselves, educated and licensed to raise capital. And we're a capital solution for our sponsors. So we're providing great deals and opportunities for our investors, and we're providing, the needed capital to our sponsors. So it's just like a win-win situation. So I'm really excited for the future.
Fantastic. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, how can they?
Yeah, you can head over to our website. It's citysidecap.com, CITYSIDECAP.com. My email address is just tim@citysidecap.com. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, although I'm still trying to figure out Instagram. I'm not the best at that one yet. And then we're actually going to be starting our own podcast pretty soon, so watch out for that.
I can't wait for your podcast to come out. Please let us know. We'll push it out. So Tim, before I let you go, what are some words of wisdom that you can leave my audience with?
You know what? It's changing the narrative in your head, right? We think we all want the same thing, right? If you're a parent or if you're not a parent, everybody wants the same thing. We want to do good for ourselves, our families. And there's ways to do that. And you can just change the narrative to, I think I want to do it, to I am going to do it. And it's just taking that action. It's getting educated. It's having that vision come to life. And if I can do it, most certainly, so can you.
I love it. Thank you so very much, Tim, for joining us today. This is Determined to Grow with Tim Lyons. You are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. And to all of my listeners out there, super grateful to you for listening today. If you love what you heard, please rate, review, subscribe, press all those buttons, and I will talk to you later. Aloha.